A lot of you found me through the Yellowstone floods when I was telling stories from there about the importance of information coming from the park at that time. And that was an important story. But friends, I'm telling you, what we're talking about right here, right now on Park Junkie is far more important. It has far greater lasting consequences than what we were talking about in June of 2022. Now here in April of 2023, we're talking about a systematic shutout of the American public from our public lands. All right, well, welcome back to Park Junkie. Hope everybody's well out there. Todd C coming at you from the great outdoors. Just a nice little walk outside on a warm day here in early April as we move towards springtime. Trees starting to bud here in the woodland areas, so we love that. Just wanted to give you a little update on how things have been going over in the nation's capital. I know a few of you have been following along there, and a few of you have even been taking the opportunity to voice your concerns. Thank you to each of you who've done that. Had some meetings. I wanted to give you a rundown on how all of that went. First of all, we made it over to the nation's capital. Park Junkie went to Washington, and I'm headed back over there. I'll give you some details on that here in a bit. But first of all, yeah, we went over and I had a meeting with both of my senators. And of course, didn't meet with the senators themselves, but I was set up with staff members for each of the senators. It's super easy to do. You just contact the office, tell them you're going to be in DC, and you set up a date and a time, and you go in and talk to those guys. It was pretty productive. However, I really don't feel that in the long run, that is a very judicious use of my time. Neither of my senators are on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. And there are the two issues we're looking at, both the Film Act with the commercial filming restrictions in national parks and public lands, and then of course the Federal Lands Recreation Enhancement Act and the renewal of that act. And that, my friends, being the act which allows the rec.gov situation to occur on our national parks and public lands. Now, first of all, the Film Act, that was first sponsored by John Barrasso out of Wyoming. It's in Title IV of the Outdoor Recreation Act of 2023, a major act which is moving through the Senate Energy and Natural Resource Committee as we speak. We are in favor of the Film Act. I want to see that move through. It will allow commercial filming, such as what I do on YouTube. A couple of other channels who've looked into this, and Rob over at overland.io has been looking into that, and he's done a lot of the legwork to get us in touch with those guys over at the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. So thanks to Rob. I'll link to his channel in the description below, and also Eric and his family over on the Smoky Mountain Family channel, and they've been talking a lot about these issues as well. And Eric going into not only the Film Act and the commercial filming restrictions on public lands, but looking into the rec.gov situation as well. So great work to those guys out there. Thanks for doing what you do, and keep up the good work. But I want to get back to talking about these meetings that I had. I had meetings with my two senators' offices, the staffers, and both of those offices were completely oblivious to the America's Outdoor Recreation Act of 2023. If their senators don't operate on that committee, so they really don't know anything about it. And one thing I've realized over here while spending some time in Washington is that it is one massive machine. The federal government is such a massive machine, and there's so many moving parts to it. And I don't think a lot of the times the parts really know what other parts are doing. And essentially what I've found is once a lot of things move through the legislative process, they go on to the management process, and those people don't really have anything to do with each other. Meetings with both of the senators' staffers did not really provide me with any sense that A, these guys knew what I was even talking about, and B, that really their office would be in any way prepared to do anything about that. However, as I did allude to in my last video that I put out about why we need public lands, I did allude to the fact that I was meeting with a couple of attorneys for the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. And I met with 3 attorneys actually from that committee, and they met with me, I think, primarily to discuss the Film Act, because 2 of the attorneys that I met with were the actual authors of the Film Act, and they were the ones that actually wrote the legislation as it exists moving forward through the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee. These guys, I think they really wanted to meet with me to see, as YouTube creator what I thought of the act, and to get me to support that act, and to encourage my followers and my subscribers to support that, which I do. However, of course, I took the opportunity to discuss the Federal Lands Recreation Enhancement Act with them. You know, I explained to them, hey, this reservation system is expanding rapidly. I don't think this is what the law was originally intended to do. And what can we do about it? And they really, I don't think they even had a real clear understanding of how broad the current reservation system is at this time, and how I don't think they understand how rapidly it's evolving and expanding into more and more parks and more backcountry areas. And we see it every month on the Park Service news feeds that more and more parks are moving to this system. And it is my belief that within 10 years, we won't have any national park that you can enter without paying a private corporation for the privilege of visiting your own public land. That, my friends, I'm afraid is unacceptable by public landowners in the United States. But in order for us to do something about it, we're going to have to say something about it. And I believe that we can have an effect if we do indeed speak up and say something. My meeting with these guys from the ENR went well, and I was told quite clearly in that meeting that this was, quote, something that they should look into. Yeah, now what that means in Washington, well, your guess is as good as mine, and your theory is probably as good as mine. But I don't know. I do have the feeling that these guys were in agreement with me, and that they thought that this was not what the law was originally intended to do. And see, now that is where you get into the, well, what can be done about it? And I think this is where we really need to be able, we really need to stand as a unit, as a group of people, and try to put our voices forth. And I know that that seems to not really be feasible these days, but I believe it actually is. If we could just get enough people to start sending letters, to start commenting to their senators. And if you're in those states where your senators are on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, you have a real in on this, because your senators will have to listen to you. What happens is, I've noticed as I try to contact senators' offices from states where I am not a resident, they don't really care. And this is kind of a problem with our system, because we have these committees set up on a federal level, and that means that their decisions affect all of us across the nation. However, we can't really communicate with their offices because we're not their constituents. So they don't really have any incentive to listen to somebody who's not from their state, because you're not voting for them, even though their decisions affect you on a national level. So there's a little bit of a problem there. Now, how you tweak that in the long run, I don't know. But if you're from one of the states where these senators serve, that are on the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, your voice does count. So I want to make that clear. And again, in the description below, you'll find a link to democracy.io. Super simple to go in there and make your voice heard. You just click on the democracy.io link. You go onto that website, you put in your information, you know, your name and your address, and then it'll take you immediately to your two senators and your representative. And then you can go to a Google Doc, which I have linked down below as well. Click on that, copy that, paste it over to the comment section in the Democracy.io website, and then just poof, send it, and it's gone. If you wanted to write your own letter, of course you can do that, and you can personalize the one that I already have there. So if you're doing that, that is awesome. It's super easy, quick, and painless, and future generations will thank you for that, I am sure, because if we don't do something, future generations will not have access to what we have had access to here in this great nation. And that, my friends, is just simply unacceptable. But I'm headed back to Washington this week. I am going to go into the Senate offices, and I'm going to have a packet for each one of the senators that are on that Energy and Natural Resources Committee. And since I really don't have much luck emailing them, I'm going to go into their offices and present the staff there with a packet for each one of those senators. And I will make sure that my packet is at least on their desk somewhere in that office. It is there. It has been delivered, and I know that. So that's my goal for this week. And then the following week, I have a meeting set up with some folks from another branch there in Washington. And this time I have been able to secure a meeting, although it's a Zoom meeting, but I'm meeting with several members of the White House Economic Council. Now, this gets into President Biden's his administration's recent proposal to eliminate junk fees across the American economy.
My administration is also taking on junk fees, those hidden surcharges too many companies use to make you pay more. For example, we're making airlines show you the full ticket price up front, refund your money if your flight is canceled or delayed. Junk fees may not matter to the very wealthy, but they matter to most other folks in homes like the one I grew up in, like many of you did. They add up to hundreds of dollars a month. They make it harder for you to pay your bills or afford that family trip. I know how unfair it feels when a company overcharges you and gets away with it. Not anymore. We've written a bill to stop it all. It's called the Junk Fee Prevention Act. We can stop service fees on tickets to concerts and sporting events and make companies disclose all the fees up front. We're tired of being played for suckers. So pass the Junk Fee Prevention Act so companies stop ripping us off.
If you get down to it, that's exactly what rec.gov is. It's a system of junk fees, because you're eventually paying a permit fee, but what you're paying, you're paying a fee in order to pay a fee. And that, my friends, is the definition of a junk fee. So what we have with rec.gov is a systematic construction of junk fees, which are being levied on the American public, on those of us who choose to use our public lands here in this great nation. And that is exactly what Biden's initiative is looking to eliminate, are those junk fees. Now, if they're going to eliminate them in the private sector, it only goes forth to reason that they should eliminate those as well in the public sector. So parks and public land agencies who are using and outsourcing their reservation systems to these rec.gov or Reserve America companies, these companies are they're implementing junk fees to get fees, and this could be eliminated straight from the top. Now, Matt Stoller wrote about this in his piece, Why is Booz Allen renting us back our own national parks? And he clearly made the case in that article that these are indeed junk fees. And he brought up in that article as well that the president's initiative against junk fees could possibly be used to eliminate these fees. Now, I've been in contact with Stoller, and I thanked him for his piece, because I think his article brought a lot of these things to the attention of people who were not quite paying attention to this. And for me, I was already aware of the situation, but his piece showed me that there was indeed a couple of methods by which we may be able to positively affect this situation. So cool. I am happy to be moving forward on that. I'm pumped to be able to put this in front of somebody's face who could actually make a difference. We'll see how it goes. What I'd like from you out there in the viewing world. I'd like you to share this information, share my content, share Stoller's content. Make sure people know what is going on with these fees that are going to rec.gov. Make sure people know that those fees are going to a private company, because again, most folks just assume that they're paying a .gov website and those fees are going to the parks. We know that they're not, so we need to make sure that those folks who don't know that learn that. And then once they learn that, we need to get as many people as we can on board. I'm currently trying to put together a petition that I'll circulate to various groups. If you have groups that you think would be interested in signing on to a petition, let me know via email, toddc@parkjunkie.com. If you have access to, I'm talking like anything from like hiking clubs, photography clubs, RV clubs, climbing groups like the Access Fund, INBA for mountain biking, the American Whitewater for rafting. There are so many outdoor clubs out there. I'm talking hunting clubs, fishing clubs, moto clubs, ATV clubs. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, we're all using public lands. And if they start implementing reservation fees on all these lands, every single one of us public land users will eventually be paying a private company to access our own public lands. can't allow that to happen. And the way we don't allow that to happen is we get active now, we get into groups, and we consolidate. It's not that hard to do. People have done this before. We put together a petition, we share it among these groups, and we make sure that our voice is being heard in Washington. And I'm happy to be the one that presents that to the people there. I'll put it right on their desk, but I need people. It can't just be me. You can get people to actually engage on this issue, which it should be engageable. I mean, a lot of you found me through the Yellowstone floods when I was telling stories from there about the importance of of information coming from the park at that time. And that was an important story. But friends, I'm telling you, what we're talking about right here, right now on Park Junkie is far more important. It has far greater lasting consequences than what we were talking about in June of 2022. Now here in April of 2023, we're talking about a systematic shutout of the American public from our public lands. And that, my friends, we need to be taking action to overcome. So I want you guys to stay motivated, stay paying attention. I'm going to try to have some more exciting videos coming out. I'd love to be out hiking right now and showing you guys some great mountains and some great trails. But hey, unfortunately, that is illegal right now. Yep, that's right. The National Park Service told Park Junkie it's illegal for you to film and publish that out in the national parks and public lands. So Park Junkie goes to Washington, hopefully trying to bring about some positive change there and fix that. But at the same time, if we're going to be in Washington, we might as well be talking to people about these public land reservations, which are threatening our access to our own lands. So friends, I want you guys to stay motivated, stay on top of this. Keep paying attention, keep spreading the message to your friends, family, and public landowners out there that you know. And we will try and continue trying to make a difference here as we move forward in the spring of 2023. And hopefully at this time next year when we're talking, we'll be looking at a completely different setup on our public lands here in this great country. Friends, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to check out, get back to work, doing some emails and writing up some more proposals. And I'll talk to you very soon. I'm going to be heading back to DC here in the next day or two. Probably maybe 2 or 3, not sure. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate everything that you do. Cheers.